Hello, welcome to the New School Kitchen. We're going to be talking about a real food plate today. Go ahead and download the infographic or the slides just next to this video if it's helpful for you to have a visual to follow along, or if you enjoy taking notes. I'm going to be going through the types of real foods and the categories of real foods, and even maybe giving some specific recommendations along the way. So note-taking might be a great idea here. Okay, so taking a look at this beautiful infographic, we've got a Venn diagram here and three concentric circles, and we're going to be talking about the three main categories of food that we all need, the ones we learned about in health class years ago: fat, protein, and carb. These are your macronutrients. They're the big categories of food that our body needs in order to burn optimally and give you sustained energy and to nourish your cells and your brain. They work synergistically together. So while I'm never going to tell you how much of each one of these things you need, that will come when you listen to your body, I am going to say that you need all three. The key here is making sure that you're getting quality sources of all three. There are some really poor fats and really nasty proteins and really bad for you carbs out there. We are going to be talking about getting quality, nutrient-dense sources of each one of these macronutrients. Okay, so starting at the top with fats, because it's the category so many of us have confusion around and an area that we have loved to hate, really. Okay. Orange circle up at the top. So really, when we're talking about fats, we are talking about fats you can eat, and we're also talking about cooking oils. So sometimes you may hear me refer to them as oil and sometimes as fat. Either way, they provide the long chain or medium chain fatty acids that your body and your brain need. Fats are your friend. They actually satiate you. They tell your brain that you're full and you don't need to eat any more food, which is why in the low-fat and fat-free decades, we were starving to death and felt it, right? That gnawing hunger. And at the end of the day, the diet was out the door and we wanted to shove anything and everything in our mouth because we were not full, literally. So we need fat to be full. And I want to talk about a couple of clean sources of quality fats and especially cooking oils. First, I've got pasture butter here. Oh my goodness, this is like the tastiest butter you can imagine. It's butter from grass-fed cows. And surprise, surprise, we found when we studied pasture butter, not pasteurized, pasture butter, meaning it came from cows that grazed on grass pastures and ate what they should have eaten, grass. They find something called CLAs, or conjugated linoleic acids. This is actually an essential fatty acid that is not found anywhere except in grass-fed cows and cow products. Conjugated linoleic acid is being researched for its effects on reducing the likelihood of developing breast cancer. Pretty cool, huh? So Taste Delicious Kerrygold brand is a pasture butter. That's Irish butter from grass-fed cows. Organic Valley makes a pasture butter. You'll see it on the label. It will say pasture butter or butter from grass-fed cows. That's what we're after here, ideally. And ideally, it's also organic, as with all your dairy, and we'll get to that. I put lard on this list just to mess with people a little bit. Lard was demonized. We were told lard was evil, and yes, hydrogenated lard, lard that we had altered chemically and jammed in packaged products, you definitely don't want that. But real lard from happy pigs, you can call it pasture lard as well, not only on the real food plate here, but high in vitamin D, surprisingly enough. So lard, you can buy pasture lard, you can buy pork leaf fat if you're near a farmer and render your own lard in the crock pot. Not terribly hard, but maybe just a little out there for some of you right now. But I wanted to put it on there to let you know that the nature of fats and what's considered good and bad has changed quite a bit over the years. Ghee. Ghee is clarified butter, so it's all of the milk solids have been taken out. So if you're sensitive to milk, or if you like the taste of butter and you need it to be able to cook at a higher smoke point, ghee is a great option for you. There's no casein and there's no whey. So those who are dairy sensitive, like I said, can get away with using some ghee usually. If you have a dairy allergy, please don't use ghee. Tastes amazing, and you can throw it in a really hot skillet and cook with it. Unlike butter, butter will brown and start to smoke on you that has a much lower smoke point. The ghee will get you that good cooking fat butter flavor that you might be after. Olive oil, of course, we all know extra virgin olive oil is wonderful for us. It's a monounsaturated fat. My encouragement here is that you not heat olive oil too high. It actually shouldn't be heated over 350. So putting it on some veggies that you're roasting at 425, probably not the best idea. You may be fractionating the olive oil and changing all of the beneficial compounds and creating free radicals. So use it low heat, sauteing, and most especially on your salad dressings, even just a drizzle of raw olive oil at the end of any kind of meal on top of a soup. It just adds fragrance and flavor and loveliness. Coconut oil, a really popular one these days. You'll want to look for an unrefined coconut oil, ideally, in terms of it having the health benefits intact. A refined coconut oil works too. You're not going to have as many of the health benefits, the antimicrobial properties, especially that we're after with coconut oil. But the unrefined will give you the benefits. The refined will give you a higher smoke point. So in general, look for coconut oil that is not hydrogenated. This is what also got a bad rap, like the lard. Nut and seed oils. There's a whole lot of variety here, and we'll dig into various ones, but you can put avocado oil on this list, or sesame oil, and then maybe toasted sesame oil to use as a topping. Those are just a couple to get you started with. For a neutral tasting oil, grapeseed, safflower, and sunflower, you want them to be cold pressed, are going to help you out in this category for a neutral tasting nut and seed oil. In general, please avoid canola and vegetable oils and corn oils and soy oils. They are horribly inflammatory in the body. They are not heart healthy like we have been told, and they're not going to do you any favors. So here we are with some pure fats. Moving on. Proteins, our yellow circle here. This is a pretty easy one for most folks. What I want to emphasize in this category is that you want to source the highest quality protein possible. So we can get into what that looks like, especially, but really, you've got to do what you can when you can, right? If budget is a huge concern, yes, high quality proteins cost more. So, I started by switching over just the beef and then moving on to just the poultry, one thing at a time. Eggs is a good one to start with for buying organic and local if you can. Why don't we work from the bottom up? Eggs. Ideally, they're organic. Non-organic eggs are from chickens that have been fed with soy and corn that is genetically modified. And then you are then getting all those lovely GMOs through the eggs. So at the very least, buy organic eggs. If you can get them local and organic, even better. Nutritional yeast. This is a fun one, especially for my vegan and vegetarian friends, or those of you who may be sensitive to dairy and are looking for a replacement for, say, Parmesan cheese. Nutritional yeast is an inactive yeast, so it does not feed yeast in the body. And it kind of looks like fish food, and it tastes almost like a Parmesan cheese. It's got an interesting umami flavor. You can melt it down in some ghee and add some broth to it and make a cheese sauce. We call it special cheese in my house. We have it in a shaker. You can just shake it on pasta at the end. It brings really interesting flavor. So maybe one to try. Very high in protein, believe it or not. Fish. Oh my gosh, fish. Please eat fish. We all know that fish has wonderful anti-inflammatory benefits. It's high in the omega-3s we so desperately need, and so often we don't eat it regularly. Yes, you don't want to eat farmed fish regularly. You don't want to eat fish high in mercury 5 times a week, but don't let the warnings about the dangers of fish scare you away from cooking it. Honestly, most folks don't know how to cook it, and we will cook some fish inside of the New School kitchen. It's wonderful for you, and it should be on the menu at least once a week. Pork, a controversial one. It goes up with beef as, you know, the meats that people say I must avoid this in order to be healthy. I'm not going to tell you yes or no on red meats or on pork. I will let your heart and your gut guide you there, but I will tell you that if you can source pastured organic pork, you are in good and you like it, you're in good shape. If you enjoy it, enjoy some pork. Just enjoy some clean pork without chemicals in it. There's so much we've done to our meat to make it bad for us and done to these poor animals to make it inflammatory in the body. But if you're sourcing clean meat, you know, I have a hard time believing that research that makes blanket statements that all meat is bad is true. Meat coming from factory farmed animals and meat that's been cured with chemicals and nitrates, absolutely bad for you. So in the Real School Kitchen, clean proteins. Poultry, that's all our birds, anything that flew, ducks, chickens, turkeys, and all of it. At the very least, you want to buy organic here. The genetically modified soy and corn is fed to these animals, and the horrible conditions that they put chickens in, it's just pretty disturbing. So organic at the very least, organic, local, and pastured, even better. But, you know, it can be a little work to source it that way. Beef. One of my personal favorites. You want to make sure it's grass-fed. It's really important that the cow have eaten what the cow was meant to eat. That's grass, not corn, not scraps of other food, and not some of the really scary stuff that they feed factory farmed cows out there. So I want to encourage you too to try and find some area farmers, cooperatives, and resources for sourcing clean proteins. You don't just have to go to the grocery store to get meat, believe it or not. And I also want to let you know you are not doing anything wrong or bad if you're not eating the cleanest versions of all of these things. It's a work in progress to get there. Carbs, over to the blue circle. The area everybody loves to hate, or at least be confused by. Carbohydrates are critical. We need them for energy. Please don't go no carb. That's disturbing, and it also means you have no vitamins in your body, because this is the bulk of where we're getting our dense micronutrients. I want to remind you all that vegetables and fruits are carbohydrates. We love to think of carbs as just the grains, and that's way down here and just one type of carb. We say, oh, I don't eat carbs. And we're talking about grains often when we say that. Bread, pasta, fine. We will get to bread and pasta, but please eat carbs, and when you can, choose vegetables first. Oftentimes, this is the side dish, this is the afterthought, or this is the thing that we add in because we know we're supposed to eat them. And a lot of the work in the New School Kitchen is going to be around how to make vegetables the rock star on your plate. And it's totally possible. This is what's going to heal your body. This is what's going to make you feel amazing. This is what's going to give you energy. You must eat vegetables, and you must eat them abundantly. And if they taste good and they're easy to make, it will be much more enjoyable to do. So vegetables first. All types of vegetables. Starchy vegetables, I just want to say, what a great way to replace grains. If you are avoiding breads and pastas, your starchy vegetables are your friend. Sweet potatoes, white potatoes, purple potatoes, rutabagas, turnips, parsnips, beets, carrots. There are so many amazing starchy vegetables that can give you energy, taste delicious, and fill you up, and are a nutrient-dense way to replace, say, toast in the morning. Okay, intact grains. What in the world does that mean? Grains as a whole could be in this category, except that we have modified and destroyed them and changed them and jammed them into processed products. And so I want to just encourage you, if you're going to eat grains, to eat intact grains. That's the whole grain. And I didn't say whole grain specifically because then people go out and buy whole grain pasta or whole grain bread with 30 ingredients and say, see, it's whole grains. I mean the actual grain. So bulgur or buckwheat or rice or quinoa, the actual grain, oats, is what we're referring to here when we say intact grains. Fruit, of course. Who doesn't love fruit? We all love fruit. I did not put it at the top, as most people say fruits and veggies. I say veggies and fruits because we love to eat the fruit and think that we're getting our fruits and veggies. Fruit is amazing. Fruit is loaded with antioxidants. Fruit can also be way overdone on a real food plate and in a real food lifestyle. Use it as a snack. Use it as a treat. Use it as an addition to a salad. But eating fruit all day long does not make you healthy. Natural sweeteners. This includes real maple syrup, raw local honey, and things like dates. Dried dates are an amazing natural sweetener. And we will explore all types of treats that use natural sweeteners. But in a new school kitchen and on a real food plate, we do not eat refined sugar. That is white processed sugar that's not just in a sugar bowl, but it's jammed into a lot of your packaged products. And used in a lot of baking. We do eat coconut sugar if it works in your body, so definitely one to examine along with maple syrup and dates and raw honey here in the natural sweetener category. Okay, so we've covered the three main big circles, and now I'm just going to touch on these little areas in between that overlap and represent a combination of macronutrients. Fat and protein. Right over here, I've got two examples of that have both the fat and the protein. Hemp hearts, that's the tender little inside of a hemp seed, and is a wonderful fat, has a decent amount of protein as well as other amino acids and nutrients, and really an easy one to sprinkle on food and throw into a smoothie. It's got a really nice nutty flavor, kind of like a pine nut, and works well as a sprinkle on. I have even been known to eat a spoonful of these when I'm freaking out and I need 10 minutes to get my head around what to eat. A spoonful of hemp hearts surprisingly will hold you for a few minutes and taste pretty good. Chia seeds. Most of us are pretty familiar with chia seeds at this point. They can also go in the smoothie, although I'd caution you not to add too many. And they make a wonderful pudding, chia chocolate pudding, for which I'll provide a recipe. They're thickening, so they also make a great egg replacement for those of you who may be allergic to eggs or choose not to eat them. Fats, proteins, and carbs, this center circle. There's only a few foods that get this distinction of having all three macronutrients. Dairy is number one on this list, maybe an unfortunate one for some of us who are sensitive, myself included, although I can have a little bit. A full fat dairy is what you're after if you tolerate dairy. Full fat yogurt, full fat cheese, full fat milk. I know that's scary. We've been told low fat is best. But I'm here to tell you that the way it came out of nature is the way nature intended for you to eat it. Plus, it tastes better, full fat, doesn't it? So cottage cheese could be an amazing snack. Some cheese with fruit could be a lovely snack. Explore dairy if you tolerate it. Full fat yogurt, and resist the urge to buy it sweetened already. You can have an amazing amount of sugar hidden in sweetened yogurts. Go ahead and use your natural sweeteners, your maple syrup or raw honey. I think maple syrup is delicious in full fat yogurt. You can even put a little splash of your own vanilla extract, handful of blueberries, doctor it up. Nuts and seeds. Now, nuts are really quite the perfect snack if you tolerate them or you're not allergic. You'll want to source them raw, in their whole form and raw. Planters nuts that are roasted in crappy oils from the grocery store are not real food. So raw nuts, you can roast them yourself at home. I like to take pecans and toss them in some oil and a little maple syrup and cinnamon and bake them and create candied pecans. That's a delicious treat that we'll have to explore inside the new school kitchen. And then seeds, sunflower seeds, sesame seeds are also going to provide a little fat, protein, and carb and are great to have in your real food pantry. Fats and carbs, kind of a smaller category. You don't find too many foods that fall into this one, but avocado is one of them. Please eat some avocados if you enjoy them and you tolerate them. Weight Watchers used to tell me that I could only have an eighth of an avocado for one of my points, I think, and it was like torture only eating a little bit of an avocado. If you want to put half an avocado on top of your meal, go for it. It's going to be satiating, it's going to provide nutrients, it's going to fill you up, and it's excellent for you. It's a heart-healthy monounsaturated fat. Coconut milk. I'm not really talking about the coconut milk in a box that you can use for cereals and smoothies, although certainly if that's working for you, fine. I'm talking about full fat coconut milk, usually found in a can and with very few ingredients added. Makes a great substitute for dairy and is rich and creamy, making curries, putting it into a soup to thicken it up. Lots of things to do with coconut milk. I enjoy putting a big splash of that in with my smoothies as well for that creamy factor. Last one, proteins and carbs, the green section down here. This section is a fun one for some people to explore and is very important for vegetarians and vegans to live in. This is the vegetarian and vegan source of protein are over here in this green area because these, with the exception of the nutritional yeast, are all animal based. So proteins, beans and lentils. Ideally, you're buying them dried and soaking them, throwing away the soaking water and cooking them. I do recognize that that's something to work towards and not even always something that I do. So if you're going to buy canned beans, please buy them from a BPA-free can so that chemical exposure is not present on them, and always rinse them off. You don't want to eat beans in that thick soaking liquid that they're in. That can cause a whole host of digestive distress. Tofu and tempeh. This one is a lot of folks will wrinkle their nose up at and does not work in my body as I'm allergic to soy. But if you're looking to eat less animal protein or save money there, I would encourage you to try organic, non-GMO tofu and tempeh. Soy is very controversial and it's found in many, many packaged foods in all sorts of forms, and in that way is totally harmful in the body. We want to avoid processed soy. Something like tofu, tempeh, or even edamame, if it's organic and non-GMO, is a really interesting, clean way to explore soy and see if it does work in your body. Tempeh is fermented soy, actually, which some argue is more digestible and better for you. Buckwheat. This is not wheat. It is a gluten-free grain that has protein in it. Buckwheat groats can be made into kasha or a buckwheat breakfast cereal. That's a fun one. So buckwheat, one to explore whether or not you eat animals. It's a really interesting flavor. Buckwheat pancakes made with a pure buckwheat flour are delicious as well. Millet, a completely underappreciated seed, actually. Some refer to it as a pseudograin that has protein in it. I will be sharing a recipe for sprouted millet and quinoa pancakes. And there are countless ways to use millet. This is a very affordable grain that is high in protein, so one to explore if you're on a budget. Along with quinoa. Quinoa got a lot of attention in this last few years and it's died out a bit. Not everyone likes the texture, but there are ways to prepare it that are very enjoyable, including that quinoa millet pancake recipe I referenced. Quinoa is complete protein, so it has all the amino acids that you would find in an animal-based protein. So for vegetarians and vegans, definitely one to buy and play with and explore. Okay, we've come to the end of our little presentation on real foods, and I just want to reiterate a few things. So your need on your plate, when you look at your plate, is to get fat, protein, and carb. And so just notice, what's my carb? What's my protein? What's my fat? Ask yourself for a meal and even for a snack. Make it like a game. How do you get all three? And then really look to see that you're getting nutrient-dense sources of all three, mostly from single ingredients, right? So a package of some processed grains doesn't necessarily count as your carb inside the New School kitchen. I want to emphasize here that the goal is to work towards this. This is not what everyone is going to be doing on day one. And to be totally honest, this is not exactly what I am doing every single week. My goal is consistently 95% real foods. This, because life happens and we have cravings, so that's my 5%. I'll be asking you what your percentage goal split is for this, but my encouragement is to do what you can when you can, do your best, and continue to work this process of sourcing and trying and enjoying real foods and noticing what they do inside of your body. Thank you and have fun.